Now, I love being talked down to as much as the next guy. And I love when people pull out graphs. And that's what happened to me today. Like, all right, somebody's pulling out a graph. All right, well, Shannon, drag yourself out of bed because it's time to put up your own graph, which is game by game. So, there was a tweet out from Travis Yost saying that the most hate he got this year was from Canuck fans when he said Markstrom wasn't their MVP. The reason is because Markstrom was the Canucks MVP this year. And again, I understand that there are people who want to debate this. That's why I've got this board made up with every single game the Canucks played this year. And it is an interesting board to go through in that it shows the Canucks were trending in the wrong direction at the time that the league shut down. And part of it has to do with the fact that they were without Markstrom. Now they were losing before Markstrom went out, to be honest. They were losing games before Markstrom went out. But was that Markstrom's fault? No. What drives me nuts is when people say, well, his overall save percentage was here. Okay, are you looking into the quality of shots? For decades, I have argued in favor of goaltenders who might have a save percentage that's a little bit lower than the guys that are the elite. And the funny thing is, these same stat monkeys will then come back with, well, save percentage does change from year to year, and certain save percentages go up and certain goaltenders go down. Save percentage. So, because if they don't like the number they'll see, then they'll say, well, we need to look at high danger chances too, because it's not just save percentage. I applaud them for their charts and their graphs, because hey, you've got to have charts and graphs. Okay, so we're going to look through the Canucks season. I'm going to make this as quick and painless as possible. But if you look at 3-star selections, and I double counted, triple counted, 3-star selections will give you a good idea for who stole games or who was your best player in those games. Markstrom was one of the 3 stars 14 times in his 43 games. Pettersson 13 times in 68 games. Miller 11 times in 69 games. I bring up JT Miller because Canuck fans also say JT Miller deserves consideration for being the Canucks Player of the Year. All right, you want to say he's MVP? Go for it. Cool. I think Miller was great. Now, the fact that they got somebody from Tampa for a first-round pick that turned out to have 11 3-star selections out of 69 appearances, thank you, Tampa, for that. But Pettersson and Markstrom, it's interesting because Markstrom plays 25 less games than Pettersson, and he still has one more 3-star selection. So one thing that you have to look at is over the period of the whole season, you can look at Pettersson's numbers and go, great player. And he is. I've got 2 different Pettersson jerseys. I'm not going to try to slam Pettersson at all. I think he's fantastic. But honestly, Markstrom was their key guy. So we'll look through it. Key game early here against LA, where they killed LA. But Markstrom had 37 saves on 39 shots. His save percentage in that game, .949. They then win in a shootout against Philadelphia. In a shootout, Markstrom was great this year. .938 save percentage in that game, and he's one of the 3 stars. Tanev's one of the 3 stars as well. Pettersson doesn't show up as one of the 3 stars until you get to the New York Rangers game, where Markstrom saves 38 out of 40 for a .950 save percentage, and Markstrom was one of the 3 stars in that one as well. Now, Markstrom, it felt like, stole that game, but Pettersson was the higher star in that game. So Pettersson and Markstrom, both MVPs on that night. So we move ahead a bit. Now, the Washington game, there was the collapse. Markstrom's in net for that. 24 saves on 29 shots. They lost in a shootout, a very unflattering .828 save percentage for Markstrom in that game. And the only Canuck who got a 3-star selection was Tim Schaller. Oh, what a night that was. Now, they did win at Florida with Demko in net. If it's in blue, that means Demko's in net. If it's in black, that means it's a Markstrom game. And I did my best to make sure that's as accurate as possible. Pettersson was one of the 3 stars that night. Demko actually put up a .935 save percentage, 29 saves on 31 shots. One of the things that was really good about the Canucks early was that whether Demko or Markstrom was in the net, it didn't matter a whole lot. They were both playing very, very well. Now, Pettersson gets a 3-star selection here in the win at LA, where Markstrom saves 21 out of 24. So again, somebody could look at this and go, well, see, Markstrom had an .875 save percentage, and Pettersson's one of the 3 stars, thus MVP. I would answer with a little bit early, and 3 goals on 24 shots doesn't necessarily mean he didn't have a good game. Now, in the overtime win at Anaheim, 27 saves on 29 shots Markstrom is the only Canuck in the 3 stars. And that's a loss in overtime. Sorry. Loss in overtime, 27 shots and 27 saves and 29 shots. Got it. Then they lose versus St. Louis in overtime, 25 saves and 27 shots. Notice, both overtime losses, and Markstrom's one of the 3 stars in both games. That's a huge indicator that in games where the Canucks are losing and it's close, the only reason it's close is Jacob Markstrom in those games. His save percentage in those games, .931 and .926. So in a vacuum, and if you're just going to throw it on a graph, you're going to go, he wasn't that great that night. Over those games, he was okay. His numbers are good, but not Ben Bishop good. And I love Ben Bishop, and being a Stars fan, I think Markstrom had the better season. The only question I have with Markstrom is, did he play enough games to get really serious consideration for Vezina? And if people are gonna just keep going on about save percentage, then he won't get in that conversation. Now, the win at Nashville and the win at Washington, back-to-backs. Saves 45 out of 48 for a .938 save percentage. Markstrom, Pettersson. Wins in a shootout at Washington. Markstrom, Pettersson. They are both in the 3 stars. Markstrom is ahead of Pettersson on the 3-star selection both nights. They lost at Pittsburgh in that embarrassing game where they had a huge lead and then they didn't. That was a Demko game. .821 save percentage for Demko that night, and JT Miller's the only Canuck that's one of the 3 stars. They win at Edmonton, 28 saves on 30 shots for Markstrom. He did not get a 3-star selection that night. Now we go down here. The win versus Carolina, and I'm going to go ahead and say to Carolina Hurricanes fans, yeah, I understand that game should have been 1-0 Carolina. Sorry about that. Overtime, shutout for Markstrom. So Markstrom with 43 saves gets the shutout. Pettersson is one of the 3 stars as well. So Markstrom, Pettersson, Markstrom, Pettersson, Markstrom, Pettersson. There's a pattern there. Now, in the win at Vegas, or win at home against Vegas, which I saw live, 39 saves on 43 shots, .907 save percentage for Markstrom. That's an overtime win. Pettersson's one of your 3 stars. Now, a win against Pittsburgh, 28 saves on 29 shots, .966 save percentage. Pettersson and Markstrom. And that was a night where, actually it's Miller, then Pettersson, then Markstrom. So all 3 of them are together. That was the night, of course, that the Canucks decided not to take shots. It was a bold strategy, and it worked out. 28 saves on 29 shots for Markstrom in that game that was slow. We'll put it that way. Now, against LA, and this is where, they allow, actually I can take that asterisk off of there because that's not 39, it's 29. So I meant to put that on here where it's 43. It's fine. That's not something I'm even going to really bother with because it's something that I wanted to look at on the board. I was trying to track all the nights that their defense kind of just allowed way too many shots. But against LA, this is a game Markstrom stole this game. 49 saves on 51 shots, .961 save percentage. Markstrom, Pettersson. That is the 4th time on this board that Markstrom and Pettersson are both 3 stars, and Markstrom's ahead of Pettersson. This one, Pettersson's ahead of Markstrom. So it's 4-1 in games where they're both stars, where Markstrom is ahead of Pettersson on the stars. Now, against Chicago, that was a night where they bailed out Markstrom, where he looked shaky. 28 saves on 33 shots, .848 save percentage. Pettersson, Miller, Horvat are your 3 stars. Then in the next game, he rewards them by saving 36 out of 37. He is the higher of the 2 stars between he and Horvat. And after that, of course, you have the game at Tampa. That game I put in brown because they allowed 9 goals. Wasn't a great night. And it didn't matter whether it was Markstrom or Demko. They both were in net, and their numbers were bad because Vancouver's defense was absolutely horrible. So if your little graphs include that game, congratulations. That was an awful night defensively for the Vancouver Canucks. Then Pettersson shows up on the 3-star selections again at Minnesota. 23 saves on 24 shots for Markstrom. .958 save percentage. At Winnipeg, they get shut out. Then at home against in Arizona. Sorry about that. In Arizona, 34 saves on 35 shots. Markstrom, .971 save percentage and the 3-star selection that night. Now, Demko starts getting a little bit of action here, and there's no sign of Pettersson in the 3 stars here. Demko actually gets into the 3 stars in that win against St. Louis, where he saved 36 out of 37. Demko had a decent enough year. And then people say, oh, well, let's get into the backup. But we'll talk about that as well. Now, Markstrom, in the loss at Boston, this is really important. 38 saves on 42 shots. He had a .905 save percentage that night. So that's where, if you're just looking at a chart, you'd go, oh, they lost that night, and Markstrom only saved 38 out of 42, .905 save percentage. That's a little bit below league average. He was in the 3 stars. The Canucks lost that game 4-0, and Markstrom got in the 3 stars. In Boston. Meaning the 3 stars, all likelihood, chosen by Nesson or whatever Boston crew. Usually the home team picks the 3 stars. And on that night, Markstrom's he's the 2nd star that night when he allowed 4 goals. And that to me is huge. And that's why I don't pay much attention when it comes to the goaltending, when it comes to all the charts and all that crap. And so the last game that Markstrom plays, saves 34 out of 37 against Boston, that huge 9-3 win. Of course, he doesn't get into the 3 stars, .917 save percentage, and he gets hurt. And it was one of those things that we went, well, hopefully it's not that bad. And then it was. So after he goes down, Demko doesn't get into the 3 stars in any of the games after he goes down. Pettersson does get into the 3 stars that night against Columbus, where Vancouver just didn't play. 20 saves on 22 shots for Demko that night, .909 save percentage. And honestly, Demko's save percentage isn't horrible in those games, other than against Ottawa, where he saved 20 out of 24. That was in Ottawa, and that was the night that Bobby Ryan gets the hat trick. And I don't know how else to put that. Bobby Ryan got the hat trick, great for him, but the Canucks that night just weren't in it. And after he went down, they lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 8. But before he went down, they'd also lost 3 of their previous 4, including that shootout loss here. They had, of course, the shootout win in their last game, which I witnessed firsthand. And Demko played well that night, 45 saves on 49 shots for a .918 save percentage. But to me, over the length of the season, Markstrom was their best player. He's here. He's 14 times in 43 games, one of the 3 stars. And that's definitely why I have that opinion. Again, you can bring out all these charts and graphs, and if you look at this shows high danger, and this shows this, and actually, when we look at all the stats, their MVP was Troy Stecher. Who knew? I think there's an argument to be made for why Markstrom was the MVP. I do believe Markstrom was the MVP. I think that the fact that he played well in losses is important too. But again, people can look at 3 stars and go, well, you can just throw that aside because that's all opinion. Right. It's all opinion. All right, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you are a Canucks fan, tell me why I'm right or tell me why I'm wrong. It's usually the latter. But I do like Jacob Markstrom quite a bit. I hope the Canucks hold on to him. I think this season showed that he is legitimately one of the better starters in the league. I don't need to get into whether he's better than Holtby or whether he's better than Bishop, whether he's better than Rask. Yeah, some of these nights where they're allowing 37, 39, 43, 51 shots. Yeah, let's see Rask play behind that. And I love Rask. I'm a Bruins fan. And let's see him give that a shot. It was a rough season defensively for the Canucks. And Markstrom was dragging them along, especially right in around this period here. This is where I remember doing the reviews, and I had Canuck fans mad at me because they were winning. They won a lot of games in a row. Here, against the Rangers, not against Chicago. That one was not a great night for him. But against Pittsburgh, against LA, against the Rangers, I would say those were 3 steals for Markstrom during a winning streak. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.